So, hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and welcome to my channel. Thank you for taking a few minutes of your time to be here today, and especially thank you if you are tuning into this live. I have not done a live stream for a while, and I'm starting one relatively late at 10:46 p.m. Heck, there might not even be anyone to live stream this to, but we're going to give it our best shot. So, anyway, this is going to be kind of an interesting video. I was going to film this. I was going to do some standard edits. In fact, I think it's a little too high up. Yeah, that's better. Anyway, I was going to record this in a typical way. And then I decided, you know what? It would probably be fun if I got people's reactions to this situation. And it also would probably help me because honestly, the situation's kind of been bugging me a lot of the day. You know, maybe I want it to be a little bit more. That's okay. That's really better. And it kind of involves this book, The Storyteller, Tales of Life in Music by Dave Grohl. And I picked this up from Barnes & Noble on Black Friday because I typically go to Barnes & Noble on Black Friday because Barnes & Noble has signed books. So this is a signed book. That's Dave's autograph. And for those of you who are aware of, my Autograph Hound channel, you will know I love collecting signed books. I love collecting autographs. It's just something I really, really love to do. And so I went to Barnes & Noble, and granted, their signed books were not something that I was super going to be interested. Usually there's like a whole stack of signed books I pick up from Barnes & Noble. That didn't really happen this year because most of the books that they were selling, I was already able to get through their website throughout the year. So there wasn't a need to do it. But thanks to this little book, I technically got into my first Black Friday fight. When I say fight, it's going to have quotations because it's really more of a kerfuffle, if you will, or a scuttle, or whatever you want to call it. It wasn't super serious, but it was nonetheless very embarrassing. And I don't mind sharing embarrassing things about me because, well, we're human, and I think that's what makes us interesting, is our mistakes rather than what we do right and pretending that we don't get things wrong. So let me share this story. And by the way, for anyone who's new here, please consider subscribing to the channel if you find topics like this interesting. I don't know how often we're going to talk about them, but feel free to subscribe. And also, if you see this video is like an hour long or something like that, keep in mind only the first 15 to 20 minutes are going to be the main topic. The rest will probably be some Q&A if there's enough people to justify it. It is Black Friday after all, and a lot of people are probably still relaxing right now. So anyway, I got up early this morning at 7:30. Actually, that's not early at all. I'm usually getting up way before then. I got to sleep in. But I got up at 7:30. Barnes & Noble opens at 8, and Barnes & Noble is also not particularly far from me. And one of the great things about Barnes & Noble's little Black Friday sales is that they don't encourage a lot of stampeding. You don't get like the super long lines. You do get passionate book lovers into the store to get these signed books. But for the most part, it's a relatively smooth experience. I say relatively because there's always one or two people that have to make things just a little uncomfortable. Now, going into the store today, there were only 2 signed books I was really gunning to get. A book that was signed by Ron and Clint Howard, and yes, it is the Ron Howard who directed movies like Willow and A Beautiful Mind, and his brother Clint, and this book right here. These were the only 2 books that I really had any interest in getting at Barnes & Noble. Now, I wasn't very far back in this line. Truth be told, this line had, at most, 12 people in the line. I was the 3rd person. This is not a super long thing. However, the first guy in the line was actually a guy I had seen before. And this guy has actually caused trouble before because he is clearly a scalper. And I know there's a little bit of irony to that. Some of you are probably typing in the comments now because of some other things I've admitted on this channel. We will address the scalping in a minute. But he is clearly a scalper. He comes to Barnes & Noble every time there's a signed book. It doesn't really matter which one it is. And he tries to buy all the inventory of certain titles. A couple of years ago, there was a signed Jerry Seinfeld book. This store had 3 copies of the book. He walked in and grabbed all 3 of them. Now I raised this thing to the manager, who was right there, and I said, he grabbed all 3 books, I just want one. And the manager not only made him give me one of those books, but they made him give another person who wanted a Jerry Seinfeld book a book. And that was a relatively minor experience. Now, a week or so later, there was a special signed Barack Obama book. This book, by the way, was not going to be cheap. This was going to be $350, which, you know, that was definitely a bitter pill to swallow. That was going to be expensive. That said, it is a presidential signature. They don't do a lot of signings anymore. Their time is worth so much more than that, even after they're no longer presidents. So you know what? $350 was the most I was willing to pay for it. Well, again, this guy was the number 1 in line. Now, they had only gotten 4 copies of this book. I was number 4 in line. If you hear some chiming, just ignore it. So I was number 4 in line, but there was no, well, there was supposed to be a policy, I should say, where it was 1 per person, but he whipped out a credit card and he bought them all and walked out with them, thus leaving the next 3 people in line basically to not even get it, which we should have gotten those books. I did call corporate about that, but honestly, what could they do at that point? It was gone everywhere. Like, that book sold out in 5 minutes. It was ridiculous. And of course, it was ridiculous that they didn't implement a 1 book per person. Maybe the cashier just didn't care. It's like, hey, you know, we're going to make the same amount of money whether we sell to 1 person or 4 people. But that was a call he made. Corporate did call me back later, and they said they did reprimand people at that store because that was not how it was supposed to be done. But again, this guy got through it again. There was even another year where he grabbed a stack of Tom Hanks books, Gene Simmons, and basically prevented other people from getting those books. In that case, I was actually there before him, so I got my copies of those books. But once he got there, he had basically wiped the inventory of the most in-demand signed books. He is just known for doing it. Well, this year, he was number 1 in the line again. And you really should see him when the doors open. He doesn't walk to the table with the signed books. He runs. Like, he literally runs. Now, this shouldn't surprise me too much. You see videos all the time of people on Black Friday just acting like animals. They just rush. There's like stampedes. I remember working at Fry's and we opened the thing, like the way people just ran in. It was kind of a sight to see, but it was also kind of scary. Like I saw employees that had to actually jump out of the way to avoid getting run into by customers. Like people get crazy during this time of year, and I have never once gotten to that point. I try to be as calm as possible. I don't even like crowds very much, so I walk I'm courteous. I will actually get out of people's way for the most part, and I will move. I try not to be that person. Anyway, this guy runs towards the books, and he does pretty much what I expect him to do. He goes to the tables and he starts grabbing stacks of books. In fact, the first stack of books he grabs, there's like 5 copies of that Ron and Clint Howard book that I mentioned. He grabs the whole stack, puts it aside. Then he grabs the whole stack of Stanley Tucci books, picks them up, puts them to the side. He is taking the whole stack of all these books. Now, Dave Grohl, Nirvana drummer and everything like that, this guy, I think this was by far the most coveted autograph on that table. It seemed like a lot of people wanted this one. Thankfully, there were 8 copies of this book. Everyone who wanted one, who was there at the store that morning, should have easily been able to get it. But guess what this guy did? You got it. He grabbed the entire stack of this book. All 8 of them. He was going to buy them all. And I got annoyed. Admittingly, I got a little bit of that Black Friday rage. I was feeling it. But I didn't want to really start anything. I kind of surmised the situation. Already there are other people who are complaining to him because they want some of the books that he's grabbed. Keep in mind, he's grabbed the whole stack. He's not sharing. And again, I've seen him do this before. It was like when the Jerry Seinfeld books, there were 3 books in total there. He grabbed them all. Clearly, you don't need 3 of those books. In fact, I live by the Twofer Rule. This is an honor system that I do with items like this. You should be allowed 2. 1 for you and 1 as a gift. Anything extra is excess. Now, some people might take those 2 and they're going to scalp them. You know what? That's life. But I think 2 is a fair rule. And in some cases, if there are really so few copies, then 1 copy per person. So, and of course, there's a little wiggle room if you grab 2 and then you call your wife or your husband and then you hand them the other book and have them buy it. That's a gray area, to be sure. But this guy does not need 8 Dave Grohl books. He does not. So the other people are starting to complain to him. He's actually almost kind of ignoring them and just continuing to grab books. I think he's intending to grab as many books as possible and take them to the register. Well, I says of the situation, I'm pretty pissed because he's already taken the 2 titles that I want. But I realize he's here and the books are here. So I decide, you know what? I'm not going to put up for that. I'm not going to say anything, not going to get in his face. I'm just going to walk up to the stack and I'm going to grab 1 Dave Grohl book because it's right there. It's on the top. It's within reach. He doesn't have the right to all of them. He hasn't paid for them yet. And I'm going to grab that 1 book. So, as you can imagine, it's right there. I pick it up and I start walking. I don't even say anything. And, I came up with this plan because I didn't want to be confrontational, but I don't want him to get away with this either. And honestly, what's the worst that could happen? Well, admittingly, there's probably been worse results on what happened for things like this. But I was going to find out exactly how serious he was about this. So I grabbed the book and I don't even slow down. I just walk around the corner and I hear him shouting, hey, that's my book, that's my book. And I don't even say anything. I'm just, I'm going to walk to the register. Just going to walk to the cashier. I'm going to buy the book. And just as I am a couple feet away from the register, the guy literally charges at me and puts his arm around the book to yank it out of my hand. Now, hindsight being 2020, maybe I should have not reacted the way I reacted, as I'm about to tell you. Because I'm a little embarrassed that this is how I reacted. At the same time, I was also a little angry. I was angry at what this guy was doing. He was clearly being greedy. He doesn't need all these books. If he was grabbing 2 copies per book, this probably wouldn't be a thing. But he was grabbing more. He was grabbing, in some cases, a dozen books. And now I'm upset for a few reasons. One, he's literally charging me. That makes me feel threatened. He is actually touching me. I do not like being touched. I don't even hug a lot of people. I just have huge personal space issues, and he is very, very much violating that personal space. But then, in that split second, it's like the audacity. This guy still has 7 Dave Grohl books that he is intending to buy that no one seems to be stopping him from buying. But he has to actually run and try to tackle me because I took 1? And by the way, on a side note, this also was like a really stupid thing for him to do, because if he honestly thought those people who were pissed at him were not going to go toward his pile and start taking books back out of his pile, that was... I don't know why he was thinking. So this wasn't even beneficial for him. But then this is where I actually lose my temper a little bit. I am upset at this guy. I just wanted 2 books. He took the stacks for both of them. I'm going to settle for 1 now. And he's trying to tackle me. So no. So I actually did something I never thought I would do. I literally shoved him away, and I raised my voice almost to shouting level, and I said, no, that is not okay. You do not tackle me. You had took all 8 of the Dave Grohl books. I just want 1. You took 8. You do not need 8 books. I never thought I would be that person, but apparently in that moment, I became that person. It's a book. It's not important. I'm not even that emotionally attached to it. It was just it was just a whole thing that, you know what? He's clearly just being greedy. He's just taking what he wants. He's not giving anyone a shot at it. And I just wanted 1 book, and then he would actually invade my personal space, really almost try to attack me to take back a book he has not even paid for. Now, obviously, thankfully, the manager is downstairs. And the manager sees this, and he comes over, and he says, what is going on? And I hold him like I just want 2 books. This guy is taking the entire stack of some of these signed books, and he's not giving anyone a chance to get them. And the manager looks at this guy, and this is when I calmed down, because I really loved what the manager said. The manager looked at him, and he's like, oh, it's you. Yeah, you know that someone has a reputation when the manager says that. And the manager said, you know, the guy's name, who I can't remember, and I wouldn't say it just to be on the safe side. And he's like, I recall we've had a talk to you about this. Didn't we tell you that when we did signed books, it was 1 per person? 1 per person. And the guy looked angry but embarrassed, like his plan failed. And who knows, maybe he would have gotten away with it, because I'm not going to blast the Barnes & Noble cashiers. I'm not going to say they're incompetent what they do, but I do sense most of them don't care that much. They're just going to ring up whatever books you bring them. And in all fairness, after Black Friday, once day 2 comes along, if they still have 5 copies of a signed book and someone comes in and they want to buy those 5 copies, you know what? Fine. At that point, they've been there for 24 hours. You just got to move those books at some point. But when there's people who are there who want the books, this should not be a thing. But the manager scolds this guy like basically says that, they talked about this, and he said that he had warned them that this would not be allowed in the future. And he's like, now here's what we're going to do. We are going to go back. You are going to show me your pile. And if anyone wants a book from that pile, you are going to hand it to them, or you will never shop here again. And then he looked at me and was like, does he have any other books that you want? And I said, as a matter of fact, he does. So thanks to the manager, I got my Ron and Clint Howard signed book. Like, all that trouble for a couple books. And here's the thing. Normally, after I grab my signed books, I walk around Barnes & Noble. I pick up the White Elephant book for my party. I pick up a couple Criterions because they're still 50% off. But I was so angry at the situation that I just took the 2 books, I paid for them, and I left. And there were so many things about this that made me angry. It was like the greediness, it was the invasion of the personal space, it was the fact that he felt so entitled to this book that he was going to try to take it out of my hand. It was like the fact that I got emotional over this, and it's just a thing. You should not have to get emotional over these things, and maybe I didn't need to, maybe it was just a spur of the moment thing, but it's like, why did it get to this point? If I was going to make a suggestion to Barnes & Noble, who overall handled the situation well, the staff did, and the manager was very firm. In fact, as it was leaving, it seemed like the manager was actually having employees get the security footage of, me almost being tackled and calling the cops. I'm hoping, at least, that they are finally putting an end to it and saying that this guy can no longer come to the store, and if he does, it's considered trespassing, which is a thing that happens. But I was just like, man, I went through how many years without personally getting into a scuffle for a Black Friday sale, and it was broke because this guy literally was trying to take it out of my hands, and it was like, I didn't feel like letting him bully me like that. But I also don't know if that was like a altruistic reason to actually, do something like that. So now let's actually address, because I know that some people are going to be asking this, well, why are you feeling upset about this? Don't you scalp? Haven't you made a lot of money on PlayStation 5s and Xboxes, and those PlayStation 5s and Xboxes could be given to kids for Christmas who really want them, and you're bragging about how you're making $60,000 this year on eBay just from those systems. What's different about that than what happens here? Well, there's a couple of reasons, a couple differences, I would say. The first difference, they're still making PlayStation 5s and Xboxes. And they're going to make them for years, actually. So this, I'm just going to grab the top one. This is a signed book. The signed books are a limited quantity thing. And there's a finite amount of them. I am not going online and buying all of the Xboxes and the PlayStation 5s. I'm not using bots, which, by the way, I do disagree with bots. I'm not using bots. I'm getting in line like everyone else. I am getting a system along with how many other people got it, and I am playing fair. I will get a system. Sometimes I won't. It kind of just depends, but I am not using bots. I'm not using unscrupulous methods to get these machines. I'm getting in line like everyone else. And sometimes I get one, and sometimes I don't. And not only am I not using unscrupulous methods, they will still be making those Xboxes and PS5s for quite some time. These signed books, things like that should definitely have a limit. And I do disagree with people using bots to unfairly snatch up an entire inventory worth of a drop from regular people at superhuman speed where no one else can compete. And I disagree with someone going to the store and just grabbing the whole inventory off the shelf when other people are there who clearly want that product as well, and you're trying to prevent them from even being able to get it. That's kind of the main difference. Also, I guess another difference is that I do have some standards when it comes to this thing. Like I said, I believe in the Twofer Rule. And usually Barnes & Noble does let you take home 2 of each signed book, but because of what this guy was doing, and maybe to a certain extent my reaction to this guy doing it, they instigated a hard 1 per person rule, which is good, by the way, in this situation. But otherwise, I do believe in the Twofer Rule. Now, years ago, when I was like 15, 16, and I was just really starting to do this, and you could flip Blu-rays and DVDs for a lot of money, or at least you could flip them for double. It's kind of hard to sell physical media now, to be honest, for a profit. But back then, I remember filling the cart with like tons of movies and games. Sometimes I would, honestly, clear the inventory. But I also wasn't a jerk about it, because I would be in line and sometimes someone would come by and like, oh, I was looking for that game. Like, is there any left? And I would say, no, I got the last one, but you know what? Here, take it. I would give a lot of them back if someone saw me on the way out and they wanted it. I wasn't trying to be a jerk, and I'd always try to leave some copies there. So I think that empathy with other people puts me a little bit of a step ahead. But again, this was also like way back when I was 15. I don't do that anymore. Now I live by the Twofer Rule. Get 2 of anything you plan to sell, because you know what, that's reasonable for stores. You're getting 1 for yourself and 1 as a gift. I mean, yeah, I'm probably going to be selling them, and they don't know that, but the thing is, I think most people should be allowed to get 2. But man, this guy, yeah, I get so annoyed when people use bots to clear out inventory online, and I get so angry when people just grab the entire inventory and think that they can just get away with that. So, some people might say that I got a taste of my own medicine. Maybe. That's totally possible. Not going to stop scalping PlayStation 5s and Xboxes. Heck, I also made $3,000 today because a few of them ended their auction. So, going to be completely transparent about that. But yeah, that's kind of the main thing. The guy what he was doing was not an honor code or anything. He was just being greedy, and he was picking up things that there would not be a restock of. This was the only shipment this store was going to get. Once those books were gone, they were gone unless somebody returned one, which I don't even think you can return signed books, actually. That's one of the reasons Barnes & Noble really likes doing it. They pay a little extra to have the author sign the books, because once that book is signed and you buy it, guess what? It's an altered product. You cannot bring it back. So that was kind of my first, and hopefully it will be my last Black Friday scuttle. Yeah, scuttle. Yeah, why not? Because it wasn't like really a fight. I mean, I did shove the guy, and he did fall to the ground, but there were no blows exchange or anything like that. So I will be curious to see what everyone's perspective on this is, like whether or not you think that I did the right thing, whether I overreacted. I mean, I'm totally willing to humble myself on this one. Like, if you think that I totally overreacted, then that's fine. I will totally accept that. It's actually kind of an interesting time that the dislike count has been taken away from YouTube, because I think the like and the dislike ratio would definitely give me a clue to how many people think that I was in the right and how many people think I was in the wrong in doing this. Although, for the record, I can still see the dislike number. So hey, whether it's a thumbs up or thumbs down, please consider engaging with it. And of course, leaving a comment, like, what would you have done in this situation? Would you have done what I would have done? Like, I guess I could have just gone to the manager right from the get-go. That's another way I could have handled it. And the manager probably would have taken care of it. But, the rate that guy was moving, and I didn't know where the manager was. Like, maybe there was a part of me that was like kind of afraid that if I didn't just grab that book at that moment in time, that he would just get out of there with all the books, because I don't completely trust the cashiers to enforce any limitations, even when it's pretty obvious what's going on. So anyway, that's my story. I guess I lied. I guess this was 30 minutes, and I guess we're not going to be doing any Q&A afterwards, because there's not a lot of people here, and that's fine. I knew there probably wouldn't be a lot of people here. But anyway, yeah, I would like to know what you think about the situation. What would you have done, and do you think I was perfectly within my right to handle the situation the way I did, or did I overreact? I would love to know what you have to think, so you know the drill. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and yeah, it's getting close to Christmas. I feel like a change of wardrobe might be in order soon. I don't know. Anyway, catch you all later.